Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 478. Today is Saturday, January 4th, 2025, and I'm glad you could join me today. It is a gorgeous day today. My child isn't quite asleep, the other child is very asleep. Not so bad. It's been a couple of rough sleeping nights the past few nights, but I'm committed to drinking coffee, so it's okay. But what is it? We have done the Great Stash photo um, on Wednesday or Thursday, probably Wednesday. Wednesday was the first. um, and so would it be? And so that led to the stash being reorganized. Um, Getting the photo done was much harder with um, newborn than it was with 11th month old, which was, I think, what ended up happening in 2023, something like that. Yeah, and probably still, and both of those things were probably would it be harder than being very pregnant. um so I ended up doing it in this room, and that was a mistake. um like I apparently had done it in my bedroom last year, and that's probably a better way to go because a king bed is much bigger than a full bed. So I managed to get a lot of the stash out, but then I couldn't finish, so I had to start putting away before I could finish putting it all out. So it was a little bit weird. What would it be? I'm wearing my carpal tunnel gloves. I'm actually starting to think I'm getting good enough now where I might be able to spin again. I'd sort of stalled out on progress, and then I started wearing my brace at night again. So we'll see how that progresses, but is the case where I've been thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to spin? Wouldn't that be good? So I think it's gonna happen pretty soon. And also it'll mean I get the spinning wheel at least out of my bedroom temporarily. Um, would it be my in-laws are coming back, and um like in a couple of weeks. I'll have to double check the dates and stuff, but as such, um, would it be? We'll just have to figure out how that goes. I think it shouldn't affect the next recording, um, or probably the one after it, because they're only coming for a week this time. Um, so should be fun. And then we're also having a friend visit at the same time, which seems like absolute chaos to me, but whatever, it's fine. We have enough. We have enough stuff. So yeah, and that will be nice because I think my spouse is also taking the week off when the friend is visiting, so it'll be a little bit less pressure, I think, for that. Um, so so that is the story there. Um, and then like to hyper summarize, I did decide to keep the fiber up top. Some of that was just like an insulation consideration. Um, I didn't have a chance to do like a thorough deep clean of the shelf before I started putting stuff back on again. I might need to go back and do that later, but that shouldn't be too terrible. Um, and then another thing that I ended up doing, or would it be? So it would be the case where I have all the fiber on the top again. Um, it's sort of reached the point now where my fiber stash, like I have some of it on top, and went from being like 4 cubbies to like 4.5. So right now I have a mixed cubby that has both fiber and yarn in it. The other thing that I ended up doing was I had noticed some sun damage on one of my spindle spun skeins. This is what, or would it be? Um, like I need to stop using the food coloring when I end up doing dyeing projects. I should be using light fast dyes. Um, so what is done, and not too much that I can do about it this time. It's just probably gonna add some variegation to it. Um, but what that meant, at least for me, was that I wanted to make sure that my hand spun was in the inner sanctum, so it's in the centermost cubes here. So this one and then this one behind the chair. So we will be able to see a little bit of hand spun. Would it be? I've also slightly shifted this chair, so whatever. You get to see a slightly different view, and then depending on where my head is. um, but I think like high level, like the fiber stash is taking up a lot more space. I don't think, or I could not anticipate that my spinning would absolutely stop after I'd bought and traded fiber at SSK. Alas. Um, so so that's, or would be, so that'd just be the case where it's like, hey, this is something to go for first. The other thing that I ended up doing was I ended up sort of, or would it be, so in past years I ended up sort of splitting up my yarn from shawl yarn and sock yarn. Um, and then I ended up sort of splitting up my sweater quantities as well. So, like looking at the sweater quantities, there was sort of a group of skeins which were solid sweaters, and then a group of skeins that were multicolored sweaters. So, intended for color work, for stripes, for whatever. So I decided to sort of split it up along those lines. We'll see how it goes. And then it was the case where, would it be? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna act on it yet, but um, it may be the case where I have to. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'll have to ask around, I think. Um, so I was looking at various yarn dyers and trying to figure out if I could pick up a luxurious 8 ounces of yarn in like fingering weight, um, because I would like to, like, I think I have a project in mind, for one of the probably most ridiculous skeins of yarn I've ever spun. And I very briefly contemplated, um, so the most ridiculous skein I feel like I've ever spun was the Maiden's Wish from Nest. So that was from Megasal in 2015. And so it's like a green, like green teals, I don't know, let's see what colors are in it. It's got green, teals, blues, and purples in it. Um, and it's a 6-ply fingering. And with that yardage, I could do like a Go-Go Dynamo, a Stephen West, well, it was the Stephen West Mystery cal this year, but I need 8 ounces of a luxurious fiber to go with it because it's a 70/30 BFL silk. And I was briefly contemplating messaging Jen and asking if she could dye me a coordinating color for it, and then I realized I didn't want to spin I didn't want to spin the yarn for that. It's like I don't want to recreate a 6-ply fingering. I don't have time for that. That will just make the stash debt even bigger. So, as whatever, so I might need to add to that. I'm not sure. But it'd be so gorgeous. I think it would be. So then it's a question of like I think like a silver would would look really good. Um, Probably not a white, could be a black. Um, but it would be the case where I was sort of like looking through like what was available at the time and what was going on. And so, and like people that I've bought for in the past that I know have nice bases. So one of them was getting the merino cashmere nylon from Fiber Optic, and she has a ton of shades. So I think I could put something together that would be really nice with that. Alternatively, and that one would be like a light fingering. Um, Alternatively, Miss Babs does have a luxury base as well, but I'm not sure whether or not like the color availability is there. So maybe the case where I have to let the dust settle for the holiday stuff and then figure out what to do from there. And then that would be, I think that one was like a lace weight. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Like I'm trying to think of people who have like a BFL silk fingering weight base. Maybe not too many do at this point. Like I guess I could try hip strings and see. I know that Jill was sort of decreasing the number of her pieces, so I do like her stuff. Um, but yeah, and so also the other thing to know, there isn't necessarily like a companion skein for it. Alternatively, like I could end up doing something like would it be like an Aeolian or Frangipani or some other Elizabeth Freeman pattern as well. But I thought it would be fun to do the Stephen West one because I do really like the Stephen West shawls quite a lot. Um, so as you do. But um like going back to sort of like the sweater quantity thing, it was the case where like it seemed like I had like a lot of sets picked out for like multicolored sweaters, and so I feel like that's probably the next direction that I should end up going. Um I did like a decent amount of debulking of the sweater stash and then bought sweater yarn on clearance. That's fine. Whatever. So, as you do. Um, would it be? And like definitely exciting times around here because it does feel like the knit is coming a little bit more freely. Maybe the knitting time isn't as much there just because it's it's very busy right now with like my child home from preschool. Um, I'm definitely looking forward to returning him. You know how or would it be? It makes me super. It would be on one hand, it's such a drag to have to drive back and forth to the preschool all the time, and even though it's like comparatively speaking not that far, it does end up being like a pretty big time suck. Um, but yeah, having him be around other kids and great, wonderful thing. Um, but I think the more wise parents were setting up play dates. Um, I was not thinking that far ahead. So it's fine. Um, as you do. But because things are working a little bit better, and actually I think I'm looking behind me because I want to grab a sock blocker. Let's do it. Did you know I have a secret sock blocker? You haven't been able to see this. Like you can see it in the reflection of the mirror, the wood ones, but yeah. Also, I need to mail my deposit in for SSK, so So many things. So many things to think about. So, this is a lot of sock. So much sock. This sock is not intended for a lady-size sock plucker, that's for sure. I guess I should have grabbed the wood ones, but so this is the first Dark Father sock that's completed. Um, I knit this out of Mustache Yarns Must Match Sock, Dark Father colorway. This is for the best man at our wedding. I taught him how to knit, so pretty cool. What would it be? It was probably, yeah, I got this yarn 2 years ago. So very gorgeous. I got like a little bit of the red for the toe, which I think is pretty cool. In order to keep the striping sequence the same, I pulled from the other end of the ball for the heel flap. I was getting sort of nervous that I was gonna run out of yarn, and like there isn't a ton left in the first skein, so there's not really like a full pattern repeat left, but we made it. It's fine. It'll be maybe a little bit of a awkwardly strange amount of yarn at the end, and then I've gotten a start on the second sock. So I'm knitting this right now in my Haya 9-inch circular in size 0, doing a 72 stitch sock. So should be pretty good. I have lots of boring knitting in front of me because I'll have basically 2 full pattern repeats before I start the heel flap. So it's fine. It's going, which is better than it not going, right? Yeah. So I have Partridge heel. So exciting times for sure. Glad this is moving again. So it's been, would it be? There hasn't been too much leaving the house lately. And when I have been leaving the house, it's to go knitting anyway, so I tend to have both my projects with me, so it's fine. As you do. And then the pattern is just ribbing, but I think it's out of print at this point. So the other thing that I've been working on have been my pair of Joris. So this is the 7th Joris, and this is the 8th Joris that I started the day after the 7th Joris. So I am probably, I don't know, I'm not quite like halfway on the body. And then unfortunately I do need to rip back this one because I forgot to put the waist yarn in for the tail. And these definitely need tails for enhancing their dragon. And then my Knit Knight thinks that this looks like a Demigorgon from this direction from Stranger Things, so I will have to rip this back to the decreases, but it should be pretty fast. It won't really change how much yarn I'm using, just based on how you sort of whack those things in. So I just have to go till whatever slur, like I think it's like a row or so past putting the waist yarn in for the legs. And then when I finish the body on this one, then I will start putting, I'll start working in tandem, more in tandem again. So I'll put an arm in one, and then put an arm in one, and then put another arm in one, and put another arm in, and sort of work my way through that way. I'm using a very long piece of waste yarn to catch everything, and there's only a little bit of regret about that. It wasn't, it was like barely long enough to make it work for this guy. But whatever. And then I'll do the tails. Do the tails last, depending on how much yarn I end up using. It seems like I'm not using like a ton. This is pretty fine yarn. So, like, it still seems like I have quite a lot left over. I don't know if that's because I'm knitting tight or something. We'll see. So, this is Anita Wolfshot. Her pattern is called Joris. It's very cute. Oh, I'm holding it by its poor little nose. I did put the eyes in. Um, so they don't have like a ton of contrast with sorry, a little bit of runny nose. They don't have a ton of contrast with the yarns that I'm using, so I'm using Mitchell's hand dyed in one of the unicorn colorways, and then Seismic in a Daily City birthday party colorway. So we get a pastel rainbow and then a dark neon rainbow. These will be blacklight reactive, but for some reason I just sort of doubt either of these children is living a blacklight reactive lifestyle. It'll be a surprise. Oh, good. And then I did end up doing the making stitches before I put this down last night, so we can just knit a row. It's fine. So I think what's really nice about this pattern is that like it's basically written out instructions, so you end up getting like row by row instructions, but that just sort of means you have like a couple of different waypoints that you're trying to hit. So in that regard, it ends up being like a pretty addictive knit to make it to the next instruction, basically, and then working in tandem, sort of going to um, going to like the next item that you need to make. So, and what it be? So definitely like a pretty good project for sort of um, dipping back into knitting more again. So that is nice. Um, and then the yarn is very fun as well. So really glad that whatever this is working up so nicely. It looks very cool. The two yarns end up sort of balancing each other out, or surprisingly, they do tone and they do tone each other down. So there's always going to be a little bit of pastel, and then there's sometimes some black, and then the color repeats between the darker yarn and the lighter yarn aren't really matched up because the darker yarn has a rainbow and a sort of faster color repeat, basically. Um, and then interestingly, a lot of this yarn was on clearance because what would it be? Like it was apparently like a trendy yarn. um, but I paid full price for it, so whatever. It's fine. Um, definitely enjoying working with both. Um, like you could probably argue that they're probably using, or both dyers are probably using the same pace for this, so there's that. But yeah, so this is where I think most of my knitting attention has been for the past few weeks. I would like, would it be? So it does feel like I should be able to finish these pretty quick, and then I can move on to other things, hopefully. Would the sock be fast? Maybe. But this is more fun, so there's that. So should be good. Um, yeah, and so I think as long would it be? We'll see how it goes, but so far so good. Not too crazy. So those are my current knitting projects. what's going on the needles next will be my ridiculous uh, double brioche hat when the time comes. I have my size 1 needles ready to go. Um, really excited about being able to get back to this project. Hopefully it won't be too crazy and I can remember how to do it. As you do. So, so that is the story there. Um, and the last bit of the podcast will be about staff positions. So it is the case where my local yarn store, Firebird, does an end-of-year clearance sale. And generally it's worth it to go down and visit because Catherine, the owner, ends up deeply committed to getting rid of. So if you go earlier, it's like 50% off and you get full selection. And if you go later, it's up to 70% off. Um, so I just got stuff for 50% off. And then I ended up putting these things together because they were all just so neat and cute. I don't think they're going together in a project because this one is acrylic and these ones are merino cashmere. But I ended up getting a pretty wild deal on these ones. I'll have to do like a double check. Um, so this blue, so this is Blue Fiber Company from Portland, Oregon, and this blue one, the colorway is Uranus, and then this rainbow one is called Dancing Queen, and so they're 80% superwash merino, 20% cashmere. Um, so this is definitely going to be a shawl of some sort. Um, we'll see how that goes. And then this is uh, the Karen mini skeins that are also very cute and very festive as well. So, but those are like more like worstedy weight. It was definitely the case where it was just a little bit challenging figuring out like where these ones went in the stash, basically. Where did they belong? Um, oops, I'm not getting a good zip on it. I guess I was getting a good enough zip though. And then we'll pop the corner in, get the air out, or some of the air out at least. Okay. So, but definitely fun. Do I have like specific plans for it? No, based on the fiber content, it really needs to be shawl though. And then after I visited Firebird, I was able to confirm that my friend Sally was going to be at Black Squirrel, and so I ended up crossing water and going out to hang out with them for most of the afternoon. Um, and since I hadn't been in the shop in like a fairly long time, it was the case where I was able to hit up their clearance section, and so they had more like 25% off, but they had whole sweater quantities of this Elizabeth Lavold Misty Wool, and so this is would it be? So this is like Aran weight, is that right? It's like it's like worsted weight. So rustic wool and hemp blend. It is 75% wool and 25% hemp. And so that's why it has sort of this interesting mottled color because the hemp is not taking the dye in the same way. but it still has like a really good hand. Like I wouldn't like the rusticness sort of is coming from like um the blend more so than um from the blend itself, and not so much from like the quality of the fiber in it, if that makes sense. So all from the same dye lot. I ended up getting 8 skeins because I looked at the yarn and then I'm like, okay, I do like this yarn. And then I had to go back and look through my Ravelry queue and look and see what sort of error and worsted weight projects I had in there. Um, and then I saw like a more recent entry had been like the center point popover. I can't remember if I've tried it on. Um, I definitely had like another sweater quantity I was looking at where I'm like, it's like, I got it. I like it. What did I buy it for? So I can now tag that yarn when I enter it into my stash for that project and probably just move it up the queue. It may be the case where I had another Aran Weight project and I'm like, yeah, I bet I'm not going to make that. So that's fine, as you do. So promising there for sure. Um, yeah, so should be good. Um, excited about that purchase, but it was the case where what I had been trying to do this year when I knit my piper was I wanted to get 2 bags of yarn out of the stash and then I immediately refill it. So that being said, it was probably quite a bit, or would it be? It's probably not quite as bulky as the woolen spun yarn, but these are times when I'm doing stuff which is counterproductive. Because like high level, what would be nice to have happen is that I wouldn't have like stash on top of my stash shelf. um, because I will say that things are pretty packed in at the moment. It isn't the case where I've done a good job of opening up some space. It's all pretty squished. Oh well. So that is the story there. Um, and then what was it? The last thing was that it was the case where I was like what do you want? And so I asked for another Chiransikar mug. So I ended up getting the Argyle one. So it still has the knit texture, and then it has like a slightly different glaze job, but because um, he's consistent about what glaze colors he uses, I think these are coordinating but different mugs. It blew my mom's mind that I was getting a single mug. But that was what I requested. So I've been primarily using this one for tea. We'll see if it ends up sort of getting swapped out in the rotation. I do really like this one with the lace pattern, and I think it's been quite some time since he's made this one. So this one I picked up at Stitches West in 2020. Um, but it's my daily driver, so or maybe I know maybe the case where then I decide to take like a different mug into work when I return to work in many months. We'll see how it goes. So, would it be? Yeah, I think the only The only other thing afoot right now, or what I'll need to take care of, is this is just the leftover yarn that had sort of missed the boat for the great stash photo. So I have a full skein, I believe, and then a decent portion of this. So I'll just have to cross-reference, or I'll probably end up weighing this and putting the rest as the sweater. I'm guessing. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure how much the final object ended up weighing, or if I could just weigh it by itself. It might be a little bit challenging because I think my scales max is 400 grams. So I don't think I can get away with that. Yeah, and the thing that I would use in order to make it hold a whole sweater is probably not going to work for that. So that's the only thing. Excuse me, got the hiccups. That's the only thing that I really need to sort of take care of at the moment is excuse me, to figure out how to get this put away. It may be the case where I have to rejigger some of my packs under to make that work, because I think I put my other flywheel skeins in a bag that's sort of full. And then also I guess I need to, or would it be, or I'll have to decide if I skein it or not. I might skein it. That's probably the better choice. These have been wound for quite some time though. So what it be? So that is all the fun. So my two knitting projects seem to be moving along pretty nicely now. I have my next project selected, ready to go. I think I should be able to handle it at that point, and probably also I think mentally ready for a challenge. And then it would be the case where, inspecting all of my stash, the project after that is probably going to be some sort of colorwork sweater, if that is a colorwork sweater for the Bambina, or if that is a colorwork sweater for me. I did have to pull out my needle felting stuff because that's sort of a joke gift I gave my spouse. Cat felt dryer balls and their faces started falling off or getting ripped off. And so the needle felting tool was very helpful for reattaching their felt faces and getting out my frustration. um, so it would be the case where so maybe I'm like medium. So it was the case where like my child was actually ripped them off two of the four cat faces. But then when I went to inspect the other ones, it seemed like one of them has sort of fallen out in the course of drying, so I'll have to figure out where that piece of felt is and reattach it, or figure out where the piece of felt is so that I can reattach it. And then with the needle felting tool, I was able to attach it much better than however it had been attached before, so we'll go with it. But yeah, so decent amount of excitement here, and then I think the only wild card before the next episode is whether or not I'm actually able to spin a bit again. Could be nice. I really want to finish. I really want to finish that sweater quantity. There's no room in the stash to fit the sweater quantity though. That's a problem. And then that would probably count sort of as like a more semi-solid sweater quantity in the grand scheme of things. Whatever. So, would be. So should be good. I know. Let's see. Uh, that's I guess that's the annoyance there. So 2 weeks from now will be that. I don't know. We'll see whether or not the recording schedule ends up getting disrupted, or if I'll end up needing to record on the 27th. It's a little bit of a longer break, but that might be what ends up needing to happen looking at the schedule, because the in-laws are in town for my child's 3rd birthday. And then I guess I haven't whatever. Busy times would it be? Or it definitely feels like a little bit relentless right now with would it be when you go from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to birthday, and now what would it be? So it feels like the time has really flown. Oh well. So we'll see if it's 2 weeks or if it ends up being 3 weeks. I'm betting it's gonna be 3 weeks though. I don't think I'm gonna finish anything, so we may as well wait for 3 weeks. I'll probably will have finished things then. It could be exciting. So with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. So take care, guys. Bye bye.